Yes, welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. It is a little bit past 3 p.m. on the East Coast, so happy to have you here today. And we are talking to someone today who has made a lot of waves in the Libertarian Party and liberty movement in general, and is still moving things forward, training and adjusting and shifting and trying to bring different messaging and doing a lot of stuff here in the liberty movement. He is the chair of the Mises Caucus and Mises PAC, the man himself, Michael Heise. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Larry. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course, absolutely. And we are having coffee in Libertarian Drinking Coffee Live. Absolutely.
I tend not to drink coffee at this late in the afternoon, so I'm having water.
Oh, I am coffee all day long, like all day long. I do keep both. I do keep coffee and water together, both. This is my company, and this is my campaign. So I actually keep both of them together, so I can drink both. And if you want to follow what's going on right now, with Mr. Heise, head over to takehumanaction.tour.com. You can see it right there. Also, there are a bunch of links in the description if you want to check it out there too. You absolutely can, or follow him on Twitter if you like, whatever's going to work for you. So I have to ask this question. You have been talking about decentralization, the decentralization revolution for a while now. This isn't a new thing for you. You've been talking about it for a while, and you're heavily talking about local candidates coming up. Why? Why that? There's been a fight in the party about that. Why that?
Right. So I think, tactically speaking, decentralization is the best tool that we have as a third party in order to achieve any realistic goals. I fundamentally don't think, I mean, I know that we have to run big races for ballot access, and I'm not trying to begrudge that or deny that. But I think in terms of actually gaining ground in liberty in real life, it's going to be local level elections that are able to nullify the federal government. And, good examples of this would be, sheriffs who nullify the lockdown orders and stuff like that. If you happen to be in those jurisdictions, you were very, very grateful that happened. Or I think it happened in Illinois recently where there was like an attempt to introduce a sweeping gun control, and the vast majority of the sheriffs just said no. And this is something that's in our history from the founders of our country, kind of a final check on the federal government that the towns and the states and the people respectively have the ability to nullify anything that's unconstitutional. And within that context, the people is the localities, the towns, and all of that. So it gives us.
Let me give you a little pushback on this if I could.
Okay.
All right. Here's my concern. When I look at what happened in New York State, New York State had some of the worst lockdowns. I mean, not even close to them, the worst lockdowns. Democrats and Republicans together, worst lockdowns, right? Mm-hmm. The New York State Republicans, they weren't great on lockdowns at all. They were on board most of the time, right? With that in mind, it was libertarians locally who were trying to fight. In fact, we had a guy in Buffalo, Dwayne Whitmer, who basically almost went to jail for it, right? Literally fighting the cops. I mean, not physically, but arguing, literally like gyms going, no, we're staying up. And this was something that was online. People saw it. I was openly against it. I got shadow banned. I was so openly against it. I put out a whole video series against it. But at the end of the day, Republicans took credit for it, right? They took credit for what we did as libertarians in New York State. We didn't get credit for it. There are not people knocking down my door going, Larry, you were so good. No. Now, libertarians who follow me were doing that because they saw me do it. But outside the people who were following me, I didn't get a lot of people who came to me. I don't think Dwayne did. There were others. Dwayne was the more popular in West New York. There were others who did it too, not just the two of us. Lots of other people also did it. But I didn't see that happening at all. And my worry is, say we get a libertarian sheriff or whatever the case may be, and he or she does do that. Does that really help the movement at all? Or is that just a little victory that someone else has credit for?
Well, I think it gives you the narrative, but I don't think that the narrative is shaped by the politicians. I think that the narrative is shaped in other realms. So like this kind of gets into another aspect of the Project Decentralized Revolution strategy, okay, which is the culture side of it. And so I think how we're going to affect the thing that you're addressing is by expanding and creating relationships with platforms outside of our circles that will give us the opportunity to talk. And chances are that's not going to come through any mainstream media or corporate media sources. I mean, you get Spike on Kennedy, you get Dave Smith on Kennedy, stuff like that sometimes.
I go on Kennedy too. Give me a little bit of credit. I go on too.
And to her credit, a lot of people are going on Kennedy. Jeff Dice is going on Kennedy. Yes. Scott Horton's going on Kennedy. You're getting on Kennedy, and that's great. By and large,
big Kennedy fan.
By and large, though, I think it's going to be more in the podcast realm.
Yes.
Tim Pool, for example, not personally a libertarian himself, but consistently has libertarians on. Jesse Kelly, who is a right winger with a large audience. He just promoted Jessica in Colorado and said, "Hey, I'm going to have you on and fundraise," because she got bashed. She just filed to run for city council and got bashed for hating journalists and like doxed. People might know her as Forest Mommy on
Yep.
and so like that creates those bonds, and you going on Patrick Bet David, those
Sure.
are the things that I think we're going to have to expand into in order to kind of help shape the narrative and get our voice out.
So you're saying it's two pieces, if I get what you're saying. It is the local person making some form of impact. Then it's the personality, whoever that personality is, going out on the right podcast and talking about those successes.
Yeah, going to the audience. Right? Yeah, going to the audiences where we can. There's the political element of the strategy, and then there's the cultural element of the strategy, and the two kind of have to feed into each other. So basically, part of the cultural part of the strategy is we have to have a community unto ourselves, and that's the thing that the going out onto the platforms ought to be funneling into. Because I fundamentally believe, we have all these debates of like, oh, you should run as a Republican and you should run as a libertarian and screw politics and don't do it at all. I don't think there is a strategy, period, that can work if we don't have a robust community and care about each other. I just think that's where it ends. So we have to have a community, and then we also have to have funnels into that community. And then that community can't just be obsessed with information. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love podcasts and everything. I'm on a podcast right now. But there's only so much data that you can consume about how terrible things are before you start to get burnt out and hopeless and all of that. So there has to be this community. We have to have knowledge and education, but then there has to be calls to action to actually do something about it. And we have to believe in ourselves that we can do something about it.
But yes, I'm with you in all those things. But then why isn't that a cult of personality, right? Why isn't that like, let's all get behind Dave Smith, to all get behind Larry Sharp, or all get behind Scott Horton, or whomever the person, Maj Toure, right? Let's all get behind the person, and then that's kind of top down because we're all following whatever. We're going to follow Maj Toure, right? So that's kind of top down. Couldn't you get the same thing from a top down versus decentralization?
Well, I think what you're describing as top down is social hierarchy, and I think that's just a matter of human life. I don't have the ability to get on the same platforms as a Dave Smith or a Maj Toure or even you. Sure. I haven't displayed it. I play a fundamentally different role. And it's about opportunity. So the people who have the opportunities that do that. And the thing, as far as it being a cult of personality, I've talked about this before. I think some of these newer, younger libertarians don't realize how spoiled they are. And what I mean by that is I remember 10 years ago, 11 years ago, you had Alex Jones and that was basically it. Now you actually have so many choices that you can consume libertarian content and you get to choose which ones you like.
Oh, you're right.
You know what I mean? Like that did not exist. That is new in my experience anyway.
Right.
So I think we're already doing the kind of decentralized platform thing. But yeah, you're going to have leaders and leaders are important. Leaders in the organic sense, the social sense, not a strong man, not tyranny.
Got it.
You know what I mean? But I don't think that's libertarian or not libertarian. I think that's just physiological reality or yeah.
So if you're going to try to make the cultural aspect also land, right? What you're doing now, the Take Human Action Tour, that I feel like is much more of a local candidate based piece. Is that also cultural too?
Yeah, it's part of the culture because there's many pieces to all of this, but the cultural aspect kind of has two components into it. There's the branching out, and then there's the cultivating and strengthening our own community element. And that's where I see the tour is, because there's the training element, and you are doing the training for us, the candidate training on April 2nd. Everyone needs to go to Take Human Action Tour and check that out. But this is why we're bringing together, so that event has Dave Smith, Maj Toure, Tom Woods, and Gene Epstein, who all have their own audiences. So it's a call to bring everybody together, hopefully recruit them, and then give them the opportunity to say, hey, here's, if you agree with me, here's a training opportunity. So, and not only have I gotten this array of speakers, But I've gone to a number of organizations and said, hey, come table the event for free, just promote it. So I've got y'all chapters doing this. I've got Fee doing this. I've got Bitcoin meetup groups and Monero meetup groups doing this to bring the community together and see if I can't convince them of the vision.
Well, don't you also have the plan or the project Run as a Libertarian?
Yeah, that's one of the funnels. So that gets it back into the political aspect of Project Decentralization. Project Decentralization is an umbrella term
Right.
for the overall machine that we're trying to build here. So what you're talking about is runislibertarian.com, and that is the funnel into our political strategy, which is to recruit, train, and support local level candidates across the country and try to convince as many people as possible to run specifically for city council, mayor, school board, sheriff, and judge, seats that are within political reality for us as libertarians, but then also have the ability, if won, to nullify the federal government and actually land a blow here. So, we've recruited about 300 people through that program. We've been doing 2 trainings a month with them. And we're doing 2 trainings a month, and the training is very varied. We've done trainings with the Leadership Institute. We've done trainings with the 10th Amendment Center. We've done trainings with Voter Gravity, which is a political software suite company. Sure. Elected libertarians, we're trying to really diversify it and take it seriously.
That sounds great. So the cultural, you get everybody to come in because they like the individual personality. So someone who likes Ma shows up, someone like Gene Epstein shows up, Dave Smith shows up, they all show up. And then when they show up, you hope to bring them into a point where, okay, do you want to take some action? Okay,
Yes.
Great. Is the action helping a candidate? Is the action activism? Is the action running for office? And then whatever it is, you then put them into that group.
Correct. So we're trying to create like a choose your own adventure type of thing here, because when you're working with volunteers, as I'm sure you're well aware, they're really only going to volunteer and actually do the things that they're passionate to do. So you
100%.
have to have pathways for them to do that. So it's like, hey, okay, maybe you're not a candidate guy, but we are taking Defend the Guard very seriously. Can you make phone calls for an issue? We are doing political activity if that's your thing, and we're trying to make it as realistic as possible. So, can you run for office? All right, maybe you don't have the time to run for office, but can you table or door knock or something for somebody who is, So it's all about providing those opportunities and then providing the structure and the vision so that when they come in, they're not just deer in the headlights. I think we do that a lot where because we don't say, because we don't form a campaign saying we're doing this. People just come in and they just don't know what to do. And we almost make a virtue out of that of like, well, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do, man. And no, we have to lead.
Absolutely. Completely agree. But let me ask about the branding, right? People get mad at your branding sometimes. Right? Oh, why'd you brand this way? Why'd you brand that way? Right? Why did you decide to brand it Decentralized Revolution?
Well, it's a callback to Ron Paul, obviously, with the Ron Paul Revolution, and Ron Paul was one man, so it's kind of a double entendre that we want to create many Ron Pauls.
Got it.
But it's a double entendre in that the strategy itself is political decentralization. So that's kind of the long and short of it. Anything that we can do to call back to Ron, we're going to do.
There we go. Okay.
And so that's it's really as simple as that.
So then let me move to the next piece. Take Human Action Tour.
Mm-hmm.
Why that? Versus, the cool kids tour or whatever you would call it, right? Why that?
So again, this is something that's consistent with our branding because our tagline for years now has been "Take Human Action," and of course, "Take Human Action" is a play on words for Ludwig von Mises and human action. And just briefly, the idea is that human action in the Austrian school or the Austrian context is purposeful behavior, and that this is one of the axioms, that foundation, the school of Austrian economics, that humans act purposely in the attainment of ends, and that's a principle that you can then logically deduce out to get scarcity, to get all kinds of things. And so human action, obviously, where the Mises Caucus is, and that's his magnum opus. There's that. So we're saying take human action, take purposeful action.
Got it. So this is showing that it is purposeful. You're trying to achieve something. I feel like that has been a big problem in the party for sure for years, and in certain parts of the movement too, right? I think if you look at the movement and the party as two separate things, which I do, the movement has had parts when it's been very purposeful, areas where they've been very good. But generally speaking, you're right. The party has not been that. It's just been, let's hang around until someone shows up for the presidency. Then let's all jump behind that person. And then let's keep hanging around for a while. I think there's been a lot of that.
Right.
A lot of that.
And I think those bigger, I mean, obviously there's ballot access and that's the political consideration, but these bigger candidates like president, they're vectors. You know, you had said like, oh, well, is it going to turn into a cult of personality? Mm-hmm. The idea is that they're vectors for the ideas. Mm-hmm. And that people hopefully more than the person get high on the ideas, come in. And then I think what has tended to happen in the party is because there hasn't been a realistic strategy. They come in, they get high on the ideas. Maybe they're misguided. I mean, you know, no disrespect to her, but, you know, I saw a lot of people who came in with the Jorgensen campaign who were very bright-eyed, like, this is going to be the year that we get 12%. And there was nobody related to the campaign to be like, doesn't work that way.
Right.
You know, you might want to prepare for a longer haul here. And so then what happens is they inevitably get massively disappointed, wondered why they waste their time, don't have a network to attach to, and leave. And we have to stop that. I mean, imagine if we were like retaining more of the energy from these presidential campaigns over time.
Well, let me touch two pieces there. I think it wasn't just Jorgensen. It was her, no doubt. But it was Gary Johnson too. And I love Gary Johnson. Mm-hmm. I mean, people thought Gary Johnson's going to get like, 80% of the vote, right? When he was running with Bill Weld, everyone thought that. And obviously, don't get me wrong. The 3% he got was the highest we ever got. So kudos for that, right? Highest level. Awesome. But it wasn't what everyone hoped it was going to be. We all hoped it was at 6, 8, 10%. We were all hoping that. And I think that, to your point also, most of the people from the Gary Johnson campaign who were really upset, many of them left for a while and didn't come back again for a bit. They were also burned out. But here's, I think, a positive thing. I think now, since that campaign, more people are staying. And we're starting to keep some of the institutional knowledge that we used to always lose, right? Someone would run, lose, and go away. Now they're staying, right? Like they're staying. I mean, even at Maj ran in Philadelphia. He's still with us, right? He didn't leave. All right. So I'm still here. I got my butt kicked. I'm still here, right? Spike is still here. So a lot of the people are still here being active. I do see some positiveness there in that regard, that we are keeping some of that institutional knowledge that we probably would have lost before. Does that help or hurt, or does that matter for the decentralized revolution?
Oh, it's necessary. It's completely necessary because so part of the decentralized revolution, and I would say that the project and strategy, there's a foundation, there's almost like an attitudinal foundation to it. And we kind of wrote up a strategic manifesto where the first half of the document is laying this out. And a big understanding that I don't think we've taken seriously in our strategic building, like, is that this is going to take a very long time.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to take my life at least. And so we have got to steel ourselves for that, prepare for that, and balance our lives with that, and accept that. So that necessarily means that people are going to have to be here for a while. You know what I mean? Right. And right. act as if that realization is true for a while.
Yep. Well, it's funny. I said in 2016 that I had a 10-year plan. Right. In 2016, I said I'm going to give 10 years. That's what I'm giving. I'm giving 10. You guys want more? Too bad. I'm giving 10. So I'm giving till 2026 was my entire plan. And I said my goal was then, which it still is now, and I hope we'll get it earlier, was by 2026 that the party would have won something federally, whether that is an electoral vote in 2024, whether that is a Senate seat or a congressional seat by 2026, something. That was my goal. It's still my goal. I still hope we can do it. We can win something federal by 2026. Now, that might not seem like a grand goal, but I agree with you, Mike. I think we're not going to win. I mean, could we win the presidency in 2024? Of course we could. I don't want to jinx it. I hope we do, but I'm being realistic. We're probably not going to win the presidency in 2024, right?
We're probably not going to.
If we could, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, not only are we probably not going to win, but, and this is going to be a tough pill, we don't deserve to, because we haven't built the trust in our institution from the ground up amongst the people for something like that to happen. Because we've been shooting. Yeah, because we've been shooting for the top when we haven't built a foundation of trust where people perceive the political stakes to be the lowest. And
Well,
that's it.
but I'm
Yeah.
going to go one step further though, and why I'm agreeing with what you're saying here. I'm kind of going to reinforce it in a way. One of the reasons why we don't trust each other and we stab each other in the back all the time is because we haven't had many victories,
Right.
right? And so, and again, I don't want to jinx it. I hope we win the presidency, but the odds are clearly that we're not gonna. However, if we start having some victories, I feel like we can start feeling good about ourselves and stop
Yes.
fighting each other, right? The knife, there won't be as many knives in the back if we can together go, oh my God, we got to win. Look. Oh my God, we got to
Right.
win. Look. I do agree with you. Small victories is the way for us to begin to grow trust with each other. I think you're right.
And perhaps redefining what a victory is. Because again, we have to set up realistic metrics. And if your metric is winning a Senate seat and that's not realistic, you will never ever feel good because it's just not realistic. So like I think we just achieved a major victory recently with like the passage of Defend the Guard in Arizona. And there was a lot of big L libertarians who were involved in that. And that is something that we should feel good about, because I fundamentally believe that a big problem in libertarian spaces is that we don't have faith that we can actually do something about the situation. So we kind of don't live up to our potential because we don't actually believe in ourselves. I'm not saying everybody, but I think that's a major problem. So if you get something like, what if Defend the Guard actually becomes law in Arizona and a bunch of big L libertarians were doing the call bombs and everything, and that's a big one. We do win in these city council seats. And so we might just have to tamp down what it means to win a little bit, because oh God.
So redefining what a victory is.
I think we have to be more realistic about what a victory is so that we're not chronically and continually disappointed over and over and over again.
There we go. The super chat here. Sam says, leftist statism has been growing since FDR. #time. And I think that's a valid point, right? This 100%. Goes back to what you and I had talked about in the past, Mike, the idea of culture, right? Of not only politics matters, obviously, but culture matters even more, right? Mm-hmm. We have to change the culture. And I think if you were to go back, say, even just 10 or 20 years, vast majority of Americans would have thought, a single payer healthcare system was a terrible idea. Don't do that. Oh my God, you can't have Medicare for all. You don't want to. That's a terrible idea. We need to have private health insurance. And then people thought that. Now, to Sam's point, it's been growing. There are more and more people thinking Medicare for all is the answer, which of course we know is VA for all. But more and more people are saying VA for all is the answer. Let's just do that. And I think it is over time. I think Sam's right. What do you think?
Well, I think he's right. And I think there's multiple things there. So one, we're under ideological bombardment from all angles. But two, there is a massive, and this is both an opening and a fuel to why more people are into Medicare for all. There is a massive, massive revolt against corporate culture going on, especially with the younger people. They're not connecting the dots that the corporate crew and the state crew are the same people. You know what I mean? And kind of going both ways. And so they're thinking that the government is the savior because they are being screwed over by corporations. Corporations are buying power off the state. They are writing the laws. They are tilting the board. So I think that's a big problem. But I also think the other thing in what he said there is, FDR was a long time ago. These ideologues have been very, very committed across generations. And that's what I'm trying to say is that if we just steel ourselves and say, okay, it might be, the shade might be for my grandchildren, not me. We can do it because it's already been done in the opposite direction. We just have to believe in it. And yeah.
You bring up the shade, meaning the from the old the old story of people will plant trees, right? That their grandchildren will enjoy the shade because they'll be gone by the time the tree's big enough.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit under that shade, obviously. And I'm young, like I'm 33. Maybe down the line, and if we don't believe in the future that we can alter the future in a positive way? Why would anybody do anything?
No, it's a good point. I agree completely. So you decided that you were going to take this to 6 cities. That was your thing, to take it to 6 cities. I'm happy to be part of the one in New York City. For those of you who are listening on the podcast or watching live, I will be doing the training April 2nd here in New York City in Manhattan. If you want to, you can head over to, I'll pop it up here right now, the TakeHumanActionTour.com site. You can sign up there and please jump on board if you feel like it. Please do so. So why did you pick 6 cities versus 10 cities versus 2 cities? Why 6?
We were shooting for 8 when we started the fundraising for all of this, and just had to basically do what was realistic. So 6 is what we were capable of doing. I still think that's great. I don't see anything else like this in the LP.
That's true.
And basically, we tried to pick population centers that people from multiple states can get to. So, like Chicago, for example, Indiana, people can get there. Michigan, people can get there. Obviously, people in state in Chicago can get there. And try to provide maximal opportunity for people to come and do the training. And, my hope is to feel the culture too, like to feel the community. Because, again, this is something that we're always chasing when in regards to the Ron Paul thing, is that there was just this electricity to the whole experience.
Yes, absolutely. There was I remember in 2008, I couldn't really hear Ron Paul. My head wasn't in libertarian mindset yet. I didn't become libertarian until 2012. So I couldn't hear him, but I would see things about, like, I knew who he was because I could see so many people talking about him. There was an electricity. Like, I'd be walking down New York City and I'd see a revolution sticker on a pole or something, right? That kind of thing I saw all the time, or a bumper sticker, right? And I was like, wow, these people really like him. That's what
Just today, I was pulling out of a gas station getting my coffee, and there was somebody with a Ron Paul revolution sticker in front of me getting ready to pull out, and I jumped out of my car and, no, don't leave. And I'm like, Ron Paul? Yeah. And I'm like, have you heard of the Mises Caucus? Yeah, here's my card. I'm the guy, yeah, like, and it was like,
yes.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think in that regard, we haven't had that again. I was hoping that we'd get that with Gary Johnson the second run, right? I was hoping that was going to happen. It didn't. We did not get it.
It was too political.
Yeah. It wasn't what I want. I was hoping we were going to get it. We didn't get it. And I haven't seen it since. I think you're right. Maybe back in the day, it was kind of with Harry Brown a little bit, but that wasn't even close to Ron Paul. But that's probably the closest thing we've had in Libertarian Party since Ron Paul.
I agree.
Harry Brown.
I think so.
Yeah, I agree. So then wait a minute though. This part though, how do we get whatever Ron Paul Revolution 2 is, right? Whatever that looks like. How are we going to do that by the local candidates though? Right?
So the local candidates is the thing that is realistic that people can buy into in terms of actual political strategy. Sorry.
No, keep your cat. It's fine. Cat's fine.
And so that is basically for everybody that comes in who gets excited off the ideas. You're still going to have that organic social leader. You're still going to have that unifying figure. And that gets people excited and gets them involved. It's just that once they're involved, they have to have something with some viability to it, or it's all hopeless. So the two things feed each other is the idea. The big races are the megaphone opportunities where people hear the ideas, they get infected by the ideas, essentially come in, and then we have this network and this choose your own adventure strategy that actually has some viability to it. So the two things are kind of synchronistic to each other, or at least that's the idea. That's what we're going for.
So the Take Human Action Tour, to show up, is it free or is there a fee to show up?
No, there's tickets to the event, but you get an all-day event. You get an all-day event. Yeah, you get an all-day event from 10 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, plus a free training opportunity.
Nice.
So it'll be a great networking opportunity. It will, you see some of the biggest speakers in the Liberty movement. There's like 25 speakers. Like no two of these events are the same. So like there's speakers from all over the Liberty movement at every one of them. And like we got Ian Crossland from Timcast, for example, going out to Oakland. So like that's again part of this like branching out and trying to expand into these other platforms and stuff like that.
Well, the piece you're bringing up, which is the piece that you've watched what I've been doing, I completely agree with the idea of branching out. I have been branching out to everybody that I possibly can branch out to who will hear my message, trying to create whatever coalition I can possibly create, because I don't want to. My thought process has been recently for sure, but for a long time, I'm not going to get the dedicated Democrat or Republican to support us or vote for me, right? I'm not going to get that dedicated Republican Democrat. But I can get the annoyed, pissed off, angry one. I can get them. I can also get someone who is already independent. I can get them. And I can always get somebody who is checked out, right? Either not voting, not registered, independent, that kind of thing. But if they're a hardcore Democrat or Republican, the odds are when they go into that booth, they're going to go back to their old ways.
I think so. I think you're right. But at the same time, I think this calculus changes the lower a race that we're talking about. Because with these higher races, people really are in this team mentality, and they really are fighting against the other. You know what I mean? And again, we haven't built the trust up from the bottom up to where we can either help them destroy the enemy or be a threat to them and their in-group. So in the absence of that, there's just no reason for them to vote for us unless you like really are committed to the ideas. And I just don't think that, people are sitting here pondering ideas and voting. I don't think that's
I think most people today vote out of fear, right? So if I lean left, I'm scared of Republicans. If I lean right, I'm scared of Democrats, right? That's what I'm scared of. So when I go into that polling booth, if I've been voting Democrat or Republican for 10, 20, 30 years, and I'm scared of the other because I've been taught that the other guy is evil, right? If I believe that, I might like Mike Heise. I might like him. He's a good guy. I like him. But when I get in that polling booth, I'm still scared of the other, and I'm going to vote, for the other. But if I am someone who's not dedicated to the other, then I think I'm much more open to go, you know what? Who did I say I should vote for? I'm doing that guy.
Right. But so going back to this Jessica woman in Colorado, Forest Mommy on Twitter, she just got Jesse Kelly, who is a major right winger, to say, come on my show and we're going to fundraise for you. And she's running she's a libertarian running for city council. So I think once you kind of go down to the city council level where people perceive the political stakes to not be as high as president or governor and all this stuff, it starts to open up and we have more room to work and build that trust. Whereas the incentives are just so greatly against it at those higher levels, considering the constraints of political reality.
Okay, let me grab a couple comments if I could. Freedom First Film says, Heise drinks the blood of his victims, not coffee. That's what he says. But I think you do both.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I think it's both. It's actually both. So yes. Alexander says, everyone needs to smash that like button. Alexander is correct. You should be smashing the like button. You should be sharing this if you're watching it on Twitter. You should be doing all the things to move this stuff forward so that people can see what we are doing. It does matter. He goes on to say, Kennedy's show is cool. She's a bit dorky, though. I think she would agree with you on that. I think you should agree with you, and she is cool. I would agree. Absolutely. I think that's true.
I think that's part of the shtick.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, 100%. So Craig comes up. I know Craig is one of your supporters. He goes, running for city council here in upstate New York. Yes, Craig absolutely is trying to make things change in his area. Absolutely. I'm going to go visit one of his counties coming up here soon, too. So, yes.
Nice.
Dave says, it will take several lifetimes turn the United States into a multi-party system. The Democrat and Republican Party have scared the living crap out of voters. How does Canada do it? So I guess the question is, I think his point's correct. He agrees with you. But the multi-party thing, is that really working for Canada?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
I'm not sure it is.
Canada seems worse off than we are. They almost seem like where we're going to be in 5 years or 10 years.
Yes, absolutely. I get it. I get the idea of having multiple parties, and I think multiple parties will make things better. I do think it's true, but I don't think it's a magic pill.
No,
right?
It opens up the opportunities, but fundamentally, people have to change.
Yes, that's the culture aspect. Yes.
Yeah,
I agree completely. Yes. So Ryan agrees with you on the Guard thing. He says, defend the Guard is a great unifying agenda that can sow a national libertarian culture. Another I suggest is make ranked choice voting nationwide. Is another thing that will work towards it nationally. Is ranked choice voting a part of what you talk about in the caucus or no?
Not really. I'm not opposed to it, but I don't think it's going to be a magic pill or anything like that. Like I fundamentally think this boils down to trust in society. And we don't have it. You know what I mean? Like, and that is the thing that we have to build. And there's no voting system that's going to like coerce this out of people and stuff like that. Like we're going to have to like really dig in and build the trust.
I get it. People like your cat. Joel says cats are more libertarian than dogs. I'm not sure that's true. Come on now. Cats are. I think
he
dogs
doesn't just want to be left alone, as you can tell.
There we go. Yeah, I'm not sure that's true. I think it depends upon the cat. That's what I would say. I think it depends upon the cat. Absolutely. So for those of you who are listening on the podcast or watching, remember, if you want to see what's going on, You can check out all the details on Mike in the description, or just head over to takehumanaction.tour.com. If you want to come to my training, if you're in the New York City area, it's April 2nd. If you are considering running, or if you're considering helping somebody to run, you should be coming to these trainings.
Absolutely.
If you don't come to these trainings, you are making a mistake. You need to come to these trainings. And particularly the ones that if you're considering running or helping somebody to run, if you can make it, come. The thing to remember is these trainings are rare. And if you get them someplace else, they are super expensive. If you get them someplace else, you're getting good, high quality training at a very good price at a good time. You should come if you can come. TakeHumanActionTour.com. Before we wrap this up, Mike, anything that we should talk about before we wrap it up?
I like that training's becoming less rare. Like I said, we're doing 2 trainings a month online. Spike Cohen is hosting trainings, so go follow him and find out where he's doing them. And we're doing these. And but I really think the community element and coming out and seeing the speakers is every bit as important as the strategy, because if you've never been to one of these events and you haven't been with your tribe, so to speak, you might not know what I'm talking about, but it's a very empowering feeling that makes you believe that we can do something. When you have that feeling and you find your community, and you never know what kind of opportunities. It's not all political. People can offer jobs, people can offer help, people can offer opportunities, and that's really the beauty of the network itself and the community itself. And fundamentally, I think the community is going to be the thing that carries us through how long and how hard this work is going to be as things happen, like our dollar gets increasingly devalued and more banks crash, and they propose a central bank digital currency and all this insanity that we're going to have to all go through together.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. Because this is my other thing that I like what you're talking about with the community, because if we are going to dismantle so much of the government and the institutions, which I think most of us in the liberty movement want to do, we're going to have a community system to support people. People still need help. People still need support, but we've got to have a community that will still help and support. And right now, I think if the government begins to collapse, which it is collapsing, then we're just going to beg for more government because we don't have a community to fall back on. I think it's completely right. We have,
which is another reason, if I may, one last point, which is another reason why the local strategy is so important. Because if the government starts collapsing, and the federal government is going to try to be that much more dictatorial or that much more authoritarian, the reflex is going to be, what's my state, what's my town doing? And so if we have people in those positions who know the truth of what happened here, then you might have the foothold to be able to fight back and say, no, I know exactly what happened here. This was not freedom and capitalism that did this. It was you. No.
Right. Yes, absolutely. That's great. I love it. Well, Michael, thank you so much for giving me a chunk of your afternoon. I appreciate it.
You too, man. Thank you.
Yes, everybody, please head over. There we go. TakeHumanActionTour.com. I'll be back on later on tonight. Believe it or not, guys, if you guys want to see me at 7 p.m., I'll be talking about teachers unions. And then tomorrow night, 4 p.m., doing a massive fundraiser for New York State ballot access. I will see you all very soon.